hotel room in Tel Aviv. I just got here, literally just landed about an hour ago. And so is that the on? Yeah, I should turn on. Just got to Tel Aviv, and I'm trying to get my act together here. It is 1 o'clock in the morning. So, and I've been traveling. I've been traveling for a long time. I don't even remember how long. I'm not sure how long ago I left home. And I just wanted to give you a quick update because a lot of stuff is happening. So it looks like I picked a good time to come back to Israel because the ceasefire has finished the first phase. You know, they agreed to 3 phases. Phase 1, Hamas releases 33, 34 hostages, and Israel gives up about 200 terrorists. 2,000 terrorists, and they pull out of certain parts of the Gaza Strip. Phase 2 is supposed to be Israel pulls all their troops out of Gaza and they move forward with receiving back more of their living hostages, and well, not just living ones, but living and dead. But that I have said all along, we're not going to make it to phase 2 because phase 2 would require Israel to go back on the fundamental objective of the war, which is to defeat Hamas. If Israel goes to phase 2 and they back out, they leave the Gaza Strip, Hamas wins. Hamas is still in existence. That's all they have to do to win. So it's not going to get to phase 2. And that's exactly what's happened. They sent their negotiators to Qatar, and are either Egypt or Qatar, I forget. Sent their negotiators there and said, okay, here's what Israel proposes. They propose continuing on with the tenets of phase 1, which means every week Israel gets back a few of its hostages and the Palestinians get a bunch of their terrorists back. Hamas says, no way. We have to go to phase 2 now. Phase 2 means Israel leaves completely. And Israel's like, nope, not going to do it. So last thing I saw, just as I was getting here, was that Israel has called its negotiators back from the negotiating table. They are mobilizing for full-scale war. They are probably going to go back into Gaza in the next 24 to 48 hours, if nothing changes. Now, it's war, so thousands of things can change. I mean, a lot of things can change. But as it stands right now, it looks like we're going to be back to fighting in very short order. Shabbat just got over, perfect timing, and so it's time to start the shooting again, I think. Now, what's going to happen if they do that? Well, the media is going to go back into its mode of attacking Israel. The Houthis are going to light it up again down in the Red Sea, in the Gulf of Aden. This time, though, the United States has a whole lot more firepower in the region. And we have a new commander-in-chief and a new Secretary of Defense under Pete Hegseth, who are not going to play games with the Houthis like the Biden administration did. You can expect to see, if the Houthis light it up down there, you can expect to see large plumes of smoke and dust coming up from northern Yemen. And they will probably bomb them in a way that has not been tried yet. I mean, just both in quantity and quality of the bombings. I hope that the Trump administration would make good on its threats. And number one, let Israel do whatever needs to be done in the Gaza Strip. That would include either cutting off completely or at least slow rolling the aid that goes into, if not the entire Gaza Strip, various areas of the Gaza Strip. This is, it's 6 o'clock in the evening over on the East Coast of America. It's 1 o'clock in the morning over here. So the news cycles tomorrow are likely to be dominated by what Israel decides to do in the next few hours. So nothing's happened yet, but Israel, except for Israel, moving troops into place, gathering their forces, being ready to go back to full-scale war. I would venture to say that it will be, if they do go back to fighting, quite a bit more precise, targeted, and voluminous in the Gaza Strip, because they've had the last 6 weeks or so to replenish their target lists, to watch from the sky as Hamas drove their trucks out of their holes in the ground and came crawling out of their holes in the ground to go cheer and dance and try to proclaim victory. But as they've been doing that, there are lots of eyes watching them. Not just eyes either. You know, I have been saying for some time that the IDF is, without a doubt, positioning different kinds of sensors all over Gaza. Everywhere they go in Gaza, they're leaving sensors behind. If they're not, they're stupid. And we saw a news item out of Lebanon 2 days ago that confirmed that that's what they're doing, because the Hezbollah channels were posting these photographs of hidden cameras that they have pulled out off of trees and bushes and stuff in Lebanon. If they're doing it in Lebanon, you can bet they're doing it in Gaza. Now, they probably knew already where the rest of the hostages were, or at least had a pretty good idea. And they did not go in and try to rescue them because it would result in them being killed, most likely. They want to give them at least a fighting chance. But we're at the point now where a very hard decision has to be made. That is, do we finish the job and make sure that Hezbollah is defeated and the Palestinians are defeated? Because, and I repeat myself, because Hezbollah is the Palestinians, and the Palestinians, Hamas, right? Hamas is the Palestinians, and the Palestinians are Hamas. We saw that over the last 6 weeks. Every time they had one of these ridiculous ceremonies to present the hostages before they turned them over and give them their diploma for my, I got kidnapped and all I got was a stupid diploma gift. It is without a doubt that the IDF has been watching that very, very closely. And if we learned anything from that, it's that pretty much everybody in Gaza is still very pro-Hamas. Maybe it's because they have to be. Maybe it's because they want to be. I don't know. But we are at that point now where Israel is going to have to make that very difficult decision of, if we continue to prosecute this war, a lot of our remaining living hostages are probably going to lose their lives. Like I've said, this will never end until Israel gets a leader who is willing to make that hard call, that very difficult choice to keep fighting, even if it means the death of your own living hostages, just to make sure that there aren't any more. Because every time that and I'm sure most of you agree with me on this, every time that they have traded 500 Palestinians for one hostage. They are, or 200 or whatever it is, 100. They are training Hamas to take more hostages. See, people will live up to your expectations of them. Unfortunately, Hamas is nowhere near defeated. They've been degraded, without a doubt. They have a lot fewer rockets, at least. That's a good thing. I noticed as I came into the airport tonight, all the airlines were flying back. They're back to flying into Tel Aviv, except they've made a few security changes. It's kind of like Washington, D.C. after 9/11. You can't get up out of your seat for the last 45 minutes of the flight. That's something fairly new. So we had, did the whole thing on the flight in here from Frankfurt tonight. Okay, we're 45 minutes out. If you have to use the bathroom, do it quickly because we got to sit down and you can't get out of your seat again until we land. So, but there were plenty of people at the airport. There was a big crowd outside. Like I said, I've only been here an hour, so I don't have a lot to share with you as far as on the ground observations, except for what I saw at the airport. I have to say, the lady who I got my rental car from was a blonde lady, and she had an accent, and so I was like, "Where are you from?" And she said, "Oh, I'm from Ukraine." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So we got talking about what's going on in Ukraine, of course. She left Ukraine 3 years ago when the war started and came to Israel, and then just her luck with her family and her kids, and then just her luck. A year and a half ago, war starts here in Israel. I was like, well, please don't come to the United States. We don't want war breaking out there. Poor lady. And we talked a lot about what's going on in Ukraine. We talked a lot about what's going on in Israel. She is fairly certain that the fighting is going to start back up again. But the difference this time is going to be that we're not going to have the volume of missiles and rockets that we had before. So it's much safer here than it was at the beginning of the war, the last time there was fighting here, because Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis have been degraded. There is an article in Israel Hayom today talking about that they have got to take the initiative and strike at Iran while they have the chance. There are a lot of people in Israel that are calling for that, calling for the IDF to strike Iran directly. We'll have to see what happens there. As I mentioned, I don't know, a month or more ago, the locus of this war, the center of gravity of this war has shifted north to Syria. And not that there aren't any things going on here. There's a lot going on here, especially out in the Judea, Samaria, Hebron area. I'm going to be going out there and reporting on those areas while I'm here. There's a tremendous amount of stuff going on as far as almost daily ramming attacks, knifing attacks, shooting attacks, stuff like that, coming out of the West Bank areas. That it's never really stopped. Israel, during this ceasefire time, has been focusing much more of its attention on the Judea, Samaria kind of area, or especially Nablus, Ramallah, and places like that. And there have been just daily attacks. They don't even make the news in the States anymore because it's just normal. They just call that Tuesday, right? So for those of you just joining, I am here in Tel Aviv tonight. Just got here. I'm going to be here for the next 9 or 10 days. reporting on the continued conflict in this area. One of the reasons I came over here was to pick up my body armor because I left it here last time, but I'm going to need it because I'm going to Syria next month. And so I had to come pick up my body armor to take it to Syria, but figured while I was here, I'll stay here a week or a little more and do some reporting. So I'll be bringing you whatever I find. I'll be going live every day while I'm here. Maybe not Sundays. We'll see. Depends on what happens. I'll be telling you the best I can, the truth as I see it here on the ground. And thank you for the well wishes. I do plan to stay safe. I bought a round trip ticket. I'm going home after this, God willing. But then the real center of gravity now is in Syria. So I'm going to go up there in April and report from Syria for a couple of weeks. There's a lot going on up there. Israel is moving troops into position around Quneitra, which is just across the border from the Golan Heights, and preparing to defend some Druze villages from HTS. So this may be the first time that we actually see HTS and Israel directly fighting each other. Now, we've had in the past several instances of Israel striking at military bases and military equipment, tanks and missiles and such, inside Syria that were on bases or being controlled by HTS because they just took them over from the Assad administration when Assad bailed, threw the ball over the fence and took off. But that was not really a direct confrontation. It was just Israel sort of mopping up the mess, and they figured, we'd much rather those missiles and tanks not exist than exist in the hands of a group that was Al-Qaeda and is likely not friendly to us and is going to be more friendly to Turkey. So they just blew those things up. That wasn't a direct act of war, so to speak, against HTS. But now we may be about to see that. Now, we don't know for sure, but the word is that the IDF is gathering their forces around Quneitra in order to counter a suspected or expected attack from HTS in the coming days. Now, the Druze, for their part, who live in southern Syria, are saying, we want to join Israel. Our Druze brothers in Israel have life so much better than we have it in Syria, even though the Druze are a sect of Islam. It's kind of a cult of Islam, really. Nobody really knows. They're very secretive about their religious beliefs. I just call them the Mormons of Islam, just for the heck of it. I mean, it's like Mormons, not really Christians, but they pretend to be Christians and they want to be known as Christians. Well, I mean, yeah, so that's kind of like what you see with the Druze. The Druze just really want to be left alone, and they don't like people to be in their business, and they don't share the facets of their faith with anybody that's not born Druze. But suffice it to say, they're not Jewish and they're not Christian. And they seems like would get along better with Muslims. But if you look around the world, Muslim countries generally suck, just in terms of quality of life, freedoms, things like being able to go to the beach and wear a bikini, not a burkini. I always prefer wearing a bikini than a burkini, for sure. So if life is much better for the Druze who live in Israel, then the Druze who are living in southern Syria are now saying, how do we get some of that? So they're trying to figure it out. And what they've done is the Druze have banded together and they've actually taken territory from HTS. Quite a bit, actually. I mean, a surprising amount of territory. and they're connecting their territory all the way across to the Euphrates River and Rojava, the part that's controlled by the Kurds. So again, I'm just on my phone right here. I can't show you a map, but if you look at a map of Syria, the eastern third of Syria from the Euphrates River east is controlled by the Kurds, from most of it. From the Euphrates River west was controlled by a whole bunch of different organizations, everything from remnants of the Islamic State to Turkey to HTS to the Druze, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of a mishmash in there. But the Druze have now taken over quite a bit of the southern part and are trying to basically make friends with the Kurds and say, hey, let's all side with Israel here and get security guarantees from Israel in order for us to have an autonomous territory. And that makes very much sense to Israel. Israel would probably like to have that happen. Why? Because it diminishes the strength of their northern neighbor. It puts a group of people in charge along the Syria-Israel border who are not radical Islamic jihadists. That's helpful. And they are likely to, just fight among themselves up there in Syria now, because so many of the proxies, they were fighting as proxies for other players, but those other players are now melting away. You've heard me explain the four teams in Syria before. You have the Saudi government. Well, we did have the Saudi government backed by Russia. That's now gone, and HTS has taken their place. You have the United States backing the Kurds. That's going away in a way because the United States under President Trump is looking to completely pull out of Syria. I'm not sure that's a great idea. It wasn't such a great idea last time Donald Trump tried that in 2018 or 19. I was there when that happened, and that was a clown show. As soon as the United States rolled out of their bases, Russian troops rolled right into those bases back then. Now, Russian troops are no longer in Syria, more or less, but still, if we leave a vacuum, and our forces in Syria act as a deterrent. They act as a dilution mechanism to dilute the hatred and fire. We're kind of water. There's a powder keg ready to blow, and the United States putting troops in there just sprinkles water on it to keep it from going up in flames. If we leave, then the whole thing goes up in flames, most likely. The Kurds are being attacked constantly by Turkey. That's where I'm going to be when I go there in April. I'll be with the Free Burma Rangers, and we'll be going into Raqqa and Kobani and going up to the front lines between them and Turkey. That's pray for us, because that's a very dangerous mission right now, especially because Turkey is just droning everybody out there. Doesn't matter if it's an ambulance, doesn't matter if it's a school bus. Turkey's just dropping bombs on everybody that moves up there in northern Syria. They're really not very nice people. I mean, I don't know about you, but it really annoys me when people try to kill me. I mean, I'm a nice guy. Why would they do that? It bugs me when people try to drop bombs on me or blow me up. You shouldn't do that. That's not right. Ain't right. So anyway, as I was talking to this Ukrainian lady that rented me my car, yes, Turkey is doing that currently. They are even today bombing villages along near Tal Tamr. If you look on a map up in the north, which is areas controlled by
the Kurds, and there's actually some Armenian militias in there. There's one river valley called the Khabur River Valley that's in that area in the northern part of Syria. And that's the valley that the Armenians were marched down during the death marches back in 1918, 1919, as the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, tried to just wipe out the Armenians completely. And they were just going to march them until they died, but they didn't die. They just kept marching. And they went on about 900 miles through the desert down this river. But there were some Arab villages and stuff along there, and they would come and buy the little girls for their harems and for servants and stuff. But some of them actually felt bad for the Armenians and took them in. And so the Armenians established a presence there, and now today we have actual Armenian villages in that one river valley. But they've been now under the threat from the Islamic State and Turkey and HTS and the Syrian the Syrian National Army and et cetera, for years. And so these Armenian villages banded together and said, we're not going to let this happen again. And they formed militias. And I've been out with those guys, and they're hardcore. They're ready to fight to the death for their families, for their people. Let me ask you a question. Do you respect people from other countries who are willing to fight to defend their country? I mean, I think I get this sense that people don't go to war. Nations go to war. Governments go to war. Politicians go to war. And it's the people of the countries who suffer. Because you don't meet a lot of people around the world who are like, yeah, I just love it when we're at war. This is great. Except in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, they don't have anything else to do because they don't have television. If Afghanistan had Netflix, the violence would probably stop over there right away. But Afghanistan excluded, there's not a lot of people who just wish for war, just want to have war. Palestinians are kind of that way. So I just wonder, do you respect people who are from other countries? Let's say they're from Guatemala or Colombia or someplace, and they're patriotic and they're willing to fight to defend their own countries. Is that a respectable, noble thing to do, even if those countries aren't maybe our friends or maybe don't have anything to do with America? So are the people in Burma who are fighting for their freedom from an oppressive government, are they respectful? I mean, are respectable? Are they noble for doing that? I think watching your answers here, most people do feel that way. Most people do expect that their citizens would step up to defend their own countries. I'm not talking about stepping up to attack other countries. I'm not talking about stepping up to go commit, heinous crimes or murders and all kinds of shenanigans against innocent civilians. I'm talking about my country's under attack. I'm willing to stand up and go defend it. I mean, we highly respect our own veterans in the United States who have fought for freedom, and those guys weren't fighting in our country. They were fighting overseas so that the war didn't come to our country. But some people don't have that option. Some people don't have the option to fight in some other country to defend their own country. We're really one of the only countries that has that option. Yeah, I just wonder, because there's so much rancor going on about Ukraine and everything that's happening there, and about Israel and what's happening here. And I was just thinking today on the airplane, it's like, I mean, if you look at what Ukraine has done, for example, their people are defending their land, their territory. How can you say that's a bad thing? How can you, attacking that? Well, I guess what I'm saying is I'm just trying to find some common ground here because, gosh, there's just so much rancor. There's so much hate out there for people who are just trying to defend themselves. And I don't get that. I don't understand. So we are about to see a spectacle here in Israel over the coming days. It's going to get a lot of press no matter what happens. And we'll have to see whether or not we're going to go back to fighting. I say we, they are going to go back to fighting. I'm not going back to fighting. I'm just going to stay here and tell you about it. See whether Israel goes back to fighting or whether they're able to continue with phase 1 of the ceasefire, even though it's expired, or they move to phase 2. That's highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. But what are you hoping for? Would you like to see phase 1 continue and then get out some more of their hostages before they have to go back to fighting? Or would you like to see phase 1 end and see it, move back into a kinetic phase? Make no mistake, whatever happens, the choice is being made by Hamas. Israel has made itself clear. We are willing to move ahead and continue with phase 1 of the plan, where you give us back some of our hostages each week. We turn over some idiots to you each week. We're willing to continue on that plan until we get all of our hostages back. Or we go back to fighting. That's the only two choices. So whatever happens, whether the fighting starts back up or not, just remember, Hamas had the choice. And that's all I got for tonight. It is after 1 a.m. and I've been traveling for I don't even know how long, so I'm going to lay down and close my eyes and study the inside of my eyelids for a few hours. And I appreciate all of you. We are going to do a kind of like a Zoom call, not Zoom, but it's going to be Google Meet, I think, something like that. It's going to be on Google. But we're going to do an actual video phone call where instead of you furiously typing your questions and comments and watching them fly by in the chat, you can actually put your face on the camera in a big, format where we're all on there together. And I can talk to you, hear your voice, listen to your questions. We can have conversations that way. We're going to do that coming up this week from here in Israel. And you can be a part of it, but you have to be a supporter over at chuckholton.com to do that. So go to chuckholton.com, become a supporter, and you'll get access to that call. I look forward to talking to all you guys about that. Whatever you want to talk about, we'll discuss it. We're just going to test it. And if it goes well, then maybe we'll make these a regular occurrence. Just trying to give you all who are supporters more benefit, more value for your support, because we tremendously appreciate it. I just right this second am hearing from the pastora in Colombia that we saw last week, and she's been building on her church some more. We gave her some money to hire some people and get the materials she needed to work on the church. And she's very excited because she's got a new septic tank put in already. She's bumping some walls out, opening up the space, because they're in a church that's about the size of this hotel room I'm sitting in. And they got like 70 people that show up, and about 60% of those are kids. So they need more space. We're going to help them get more space, and we're doing it by hiring people in the local village around there who needed jobs. So rather than us spend a bunch of money to go down there with a missions team. We're just sending the money that we would have sent for a missions team, and she's having it done down there. And then those guys are going to have ownership in that church. Isn't that great? And then they're going to want to go to the church because they helped to build it. So that's our plan. And I appreciate all of you and those of you who have donated to make that a reality. It really warms my heart. It gives me faith in humanity and in America when I see your generosity. And when somebody says, can we join you on a mission? Yeah, well, I open those up from time to time. Right now, all the trips we have going are already full, but there will be more. So just stay tuned. And yes, you can join me. We'll open it up, and we'll just take a very small group, 3, 4, 5 people at a time, and take you to some place that you would never go as a tourist, I promise. So we might do one to Iraq here soon, but we'll have to see about that. Okay, so somebody wants to build a church with me. Okay, well, go to chuckholton.com or go to the link tree. Maybe Rubina can put up the link to our link tree, or Mama Marissa, somebody. You can donate there to help build the church if you want to join us in that. Like I said, we're not going down there to do it ourselves. We're hiring people in the local area to build the church, and that gives them ownership in it. So there's the link Amy put up just now. That goes to the PayPal, Venmo, Cash App links and things like that. So thank you very much for being a part of the Hot Zone. I'm going to have a lot of reporting to do. It's going to be coming fast and furious over the next few days. You're going to want to be checking on CBN News YouTube channel because I'll be also going live over there. And I'm going to be doing a bunch of hits for Newsmax while I'm here as well. So I'm going to get some rest. God bless you. We'll see you later. Oh, let's pray for Israel while we're here. Lord God, I would just come to you right now, and we thank you for giving me the chance to come back over here to the land. And I pray that you would just guide me and direct me, order my steps, help me to love the people that you send my way. And I just pray that you would watch over Connie and the kids and the grandbabies while I'm gone with a ready sword, Father. Give us wisdom and discernment when we watch the news to know what's true and what's false. Give us grace and mercy for people who are suffering. And I just pray that we would see things the way you do, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. God bless you. Take care. See you.